Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, welcome to the show. A lot of people approach us here at Product Mentor and they want to know how they can actually earn a joint venture with us. And maybe you're asking yourself the same question. If that's the case, you're in the right place today. I have a very special guest with me on the show today, and he's actually our COO here at Product Mentor, and I think you're going to see why in just a moment. And so let me bring in Kody. Kody, welcome to the show. Now, Kody and I have worked together for several decades, and so I know everything there is to know about Kody, but for you out there watching the show today, you may not be as familiar. So Kody, before we really dive into what it takes to joint venture with us, maybe you could give a little bit of a background on yourself.
Sure. We can take it back to the early days. So when I was younger, I was always really motivated to generate money. And as you know, when you're really young, that's not so easy to do. Nobody's going to hire you if you're not 16 to 18 years old. And so I got creative and went door to door talking to people about ordering stationery and books. And, I was able to get some bikes and some skateboards and guitars and drums from doing that. And I think it was good because it really introduced me to gaining social skills. From that, I was able to benefit a lot from my parents. My mom and dad are fantastic, and they've taught me a lot about entrepreneurship. So I was involved in restaurants, which they taught me the number one rule of business, which is don't ever open a restaurant. And number two, maybe not go into business with your family. But, I learned a lot about arcades, automotive, real estate, and also loan creation. So it's been very beneficial. And I've seen the ups and downs. It's not always a fairy tale. There's a lot of tough times you go through as an entrepreneur. And I learned from them about sticking with it, and from overcoming those things and not giving up. They're in a fantastic place today. And I'm just really proud of them. And I'm very fortunate to be in that type situation. From there, in my early 20s, I got into real estate, and I was very fortunate to work with the late Dean Street, one of the top real estate investors in the country, and also Roger Neal, who is a national real estate investor. And that's where I met you, Mike, in that circle, and that was great. So about 7 years ago, you reached out to me telling me about the huge opportunity to help entrepreneurs and just be able to support them and how challenging it is for them. There's not a lot of things out there to support them. And really from that point, I've been helping entrepreneurs for about the last 6 years now.
I love, Kody, that you've seen the ups and the downs with your parents and their various businesses. It's not always rainbows and unicorns, but as you mentioned, having that stickability and making that commitment is really what it's all about. Knowing you're going to face challenges helps with your expectations going in and making sure that you do stick with it. And as long as you stick with it, you'll get there eventually as long as you keep learning along the way. So why do you love helping entrepreneurs so much?
It's a good question. I think at its base level, it's something really patriotic to do. We are given such a unique opportunity in this country to succeed. There's many people that reach out to us from other continents and other countries, wanting to get into what we have given to us every day. And so it's a great way to create positive change for the entrepreneur themselves, their families, their local economy, and our country. And it's just kind of like the more that you lift people up, they have the ability to lift other people up as well. And I think that, making money has always been really rewarding to me, as I assume it is to most people. But there's nothing like the feeling you get from helping other people, whether it's somebody at the grocery store that needs help or a neighbor. But, when you can teach people how to fish for themselves, it has a profound effect from that point forward.
You and I both love changing people's lives. And as you mentioned, Kody, it's one of the most rewarding things I've ever felt in my life. And really helping people and empowering them to control their destiny, in my humble opinion, is one of the most noble things that somebody can do. And that's why I jump out of bed every morning and get right to work. So kind of to preface the main subject of our talk today, maybe we could just give a little bit of a background as far as why do most entrepreneurs desire a joint venture in the first place?
I think that they want somebody to be able to help them, right? Somebody has a vested interest, somebody that's going to be in their corner. And, taking those first initial steps into doing a new opportunity, there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think having somebody to work with that, has your back versus that's just telling you what you want to hear is an important element of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of times entrepreneurs go out and they work with service providers. And there's nothing wrong with a service provider per se. I mean, we obviously use them every day in the course of our business here. But to have someone with a vested interest, such as a joint venture partner, is such a more intimate relationship. And when you're building a business, when you're building your empire, that's the type of relationship that most entrepreneurs want, whether they're new or whether they're, they've been around the block a few times. So now to really get into the crux of things, as the COO of ProductMentor, you get to review thousands of entrepreneurs as well as their various app and product ideas. So what are some of the things that you look for in a promising entrepreneur that we would joint venture with?
I think the first one is just somebody who's a pleasure to work with, right? Mm-hmm. I like to find people who are kind, who are respectful, who are motivated, and are also teachable. We're reducing the upfront costs in lieu of future revenue, so we need to be really sure that they're to the time and place that it's going to be a match, right? On top of that, I would say I want to be excited about their project, and I want to be excited about working with them as individuals. You also want the ProductMentor team to feel excited about their project and about them. And, when I have Steven give me a call or a message saying, hey, so-and-so's fantastic, Kody, they're just so good to work with. I've been able to do in the last 2 weeks, what has taken me up to 2 months in other scenarios. That tells me, hey, I made the right selection. I have the right people. The other thing is I think they need to be ready to focus on overcoming fear. You want to stay immersed in positive thinking. You want to surround yourself with positive people who add to your life and encourage you and guide you. And so when I know that I have those types of individuals, it just makes it a very comfortable process. It's almost effortless, Mike, because they're on the same page. They trust us. They want our guidance. We trust them because we know that they're committed. They want to follow through, and they're really focused on succeeding. And that to me just feels like, okay, this feels right.
Yeah, I would have to agree with everything you just covered, Kody. And we have kind of a saying behind the scenes, and that is life's too short to work with difficult people, right? When we're putting our heart and soul into helping someone change their life, we don't want to be dragging them or pulling them by the ear. We want people that are a pleasure to work with. But as you said, overcoming fear is a big part of it. And that is something that every entrepreneur needs to do. It's something that every single one of them face. And so, yeah, I mean, if you're scared about starting your first business or your next one, join the club, right? That's completely normal. As long as you're a pleasure to work with, though, we'll make sure to guide you each step of the way to reduce that fear as much as possible, given the fact that some element is necessary, and that's to keep the wrong people out of entrepreneurship, because this is a very VIP-esque club, and we don't want everybody in the club. It's only for the right people. So what does it actually take, Kody, to joint venture with ProductMentor?
Well, I think we have to start at the basic, right? We need a good product. We need a good app. We're not looking for the missions to Mars. I think Elon Musk has a good corner on that right now. We'll let him stick with that. And so that's going to be a key part. We also want the quality individual that I just mentioned. And then they need to be able to have some skin in the game, right? I don't think that any investor, whether it be somebody like us who can reduce costs and reduce time, or somebody that's putting in hard capital into the opportunity, is going to feel real confident about working with them if they're not willing to have skin in the game, right? So I'd say, you need a good product, good app, good opportunity. You need to be positive, easy to work with, and somebody who's willing to put some cash into it. And in some cases, people have contributed a lot into their project. But as you know, there's no end to having to invest into a business, right? You always have to be prepared to continually invest. And that's where we can really support them in reducing those costs and reducing the time and reducing the opportunity cost in order to minimize that to help them succeed.
Yeah, excellent points. The right person, the right product or app. But again, the elephant in the room usually is the money. And people tend to be very emotional when it comes to their money, understandably so. And so just know that it's going to take money with Product Mentor or without Product Mentor. That's something that you can't avoid. If you're looking for a free business, stop your search today because it doesn't exist. If businesses were for free, everybody would quit their job tomorrow, or probably at the end of this show, in fact. So again, it's just something you have to accept. But what I can say about the financial investment and all the businesses I've started and you started and your parents, Kody, et cetera, that is the commitment that you need, right? You need a reason to make sure that you're going to follow through and that you're going to take the necessary steps. And so I see the money aspect as a necessary evil, basically for accountability. Obviously, if you go out and do trial and error, it's going to cost you a lot more money than if you work with somebody that's won the game before. And again, that doesn't necessarily have to be Product Mentor. We're not a fit for everybody. But whether it's us or somebody else, make sure you have somebody in your corner to help you. You're going to get there with less headache, less money, and less time. And that's the goal, right? That's why Product Mentor's here, is to help support entrepreneurs in order to shorten all of those things. So what advice would you give to somebody, Kody? Again, I can't reiterate enough. Kody has spoken to thousands and thousands of would-be entrepreneurs. The real guys, the entrepreneurs, and the wantrepreneurs, right? People that just have this unrealistic view of what it's going to actually take. And so what advice would you give to somebody looking to either joint venture, start a business, take that metaphorical leap?
I would say the perfect answer depends on the person and their situation. But, as far as like a blanket statement, Mike, I would say that they need to get comfortable with risk. Like you were just saying, there is no reward without risk. And part of overcoming fear is changing the way that you think, right? If you climb up on the high dive at the swimming pool and you stand there and you look over for a long time, I think anybody would walk back down the ladder and be like, man, this is a lot higher than I thought it would be, right? But I think it's changing your mindset, which is, instead of thinking, oh, what am I going to lose? Instead, what am I going to gain? If I keep doing what I'm doing right now, am I going to accomplish the level of financial independence that I want to? Am I going to have the extra money to take my family on the trips that I want to, or to support my kids or grandkids' college? Am I going to be able to do the charity work that I want to do? I mean, everybody has different ambitions and goals, but start thinking the right way, which is, what can I gain? What can I do to take things to the next level? Not what am I going to lose, right? So without risk, there's no return. The other thing too is just get comfortable that it takes money to make money. And the sooner you accept that and you start looking at, well, how can I raise money, which we can help you with tremendously. What can I do to reduce costs? What can I do to get the best return? That is a key element. And when you accept that and you start looking at it as a real challenge to overcome, then it changes everything. But the longer you think you're going to get through this adventure with putting in little to no money into it, and somebody else is going to come along and put up all the risk and do all the work, there's probably some pretty good movies out there that you could watch about that happening. But in reality, it's not reality. It's not truthful. So you have to be willing to invest money. You got to be willing to raise money. You got to be willing to hustle. You need to be willing to do what other people aren't willing to do. And of course, in the beginning, it's scary. But what I love about when we bring our mentees aboard, Mike, is once they get started, they're not worried about the fear anymore. Very seldom. They're more focused on, okay, what's step number one, Mike? Mr. Rich, what's step number two? And when they get immersed in it, they wake up every day. They're happy. They call me back. Thank you. One of our mentees reached out to me. It's been about a few weeks now, but she said, Kody, because I asked her, how's it going? Is there anything else we can do to support you? Just getting some feedback. And she said, well, Kody, I got to tell you something. And I'm thinking, oh no, what is she going to say? Is it going to be bad news? And she said, I literally could not have picked a better company to work with. You guys have been so wonderful, so supportive, taking the time to help me understand things. And I got to tell you that we deal with a lot of people we can't help, right? For different reasons, unfortunately. But when we find people that meet the criteria and they're grateful, and it's going to be a great joint venture together, I love that. It just makes it worth all the hard work. And we're just getting started. Imagine when we're 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, the business is up and running, and we're still continuing that relationship of guiding them and consulting them and helping doing it with them. I think it's a fantastic thing. So it might be scary, but it's worth it.
Had so many great points, Kody. I mean, as you were sharing with everybody, the first step is always the hardest, right? It can feel like, oh my God, it's so overwhelming. But once you make that commitment, right? Once you make that choice, as I always say on the show, success is a choice. And once you make that choice, you're going to be so busy, you're not going to have time to be worried anymore. And then the other point you mentioned, Kody, as far as changing the way you think, the epitome, when I heard you say that, is the greatest risk in life is never taking one. And so you really want to reverse your mindset, especially the way that you think about risk. And so we have covered so much today, Kody. I really appreciate you sharing all this with everybody because, again, we get these questions asked to us day in and day out. And so do you have any other final advice before we go?
Sure. A couple quotes come to mind. First is Henry Ford, and that is, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. Again, just change the way that you think. Think positive. If you have people around you who think negative, that's okay. That's just, whether they're friends or family, they mean well. But you got to get yourself in a circle of people that are going to lift you up, encourage you, educate you, motivate you. That's important. The other quote is Michael Jordan, which is, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, right? You're guaranteed to fail if you don't try. You might try and make some mistakes and find some failure, but anybody who's successful has. I mean, I forget the statistic, but it's something like the average multimillionaire now has filed bankruptcy like 2 or 3 times, or, at least once, something like that. And it just goes to show you that it's okay to fail because you learn from it, right? And that's what we're here to do, is to, if you're going to fail fast. The second thing I would say is get comfortable with who you're working with, follow your intuition. If you're talking to a company or individuals, whether it's us or anyone else, and it just doesn't vibe, it doesn't feel like that match is there, it's not going to be any different later, right? So make sure you feel comfortable with who you're working with. And like I said earlier, when I find the right people, it's just like I'm talking to one of my friends, or somebody I really enjoy. It's effortless. Um, it's not going to remove the fear, but if you align yourself with somebody who knows how to produce results, you're going to be in a lot better position. The other thing I think it's important, Mike, is to don't think that you're going to be the 1% who figures this all out on their own through trial and error. I mean, it's yeah, I've done it myself, right? I thought, oh, I can do this, 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 and this by myself. But in the end result, you get so much less done and you spend a lot more time and money. So I would really encourage people, find the right team. It doesn't matter whether you're doing this or you're in the music business or any other business. You need a team to help you and support you. Do not try to do everything on your own. We have doctors that we work with who maybe have 14, 15, 16-hour days. And we have to show them how to be able to still make things work to accomplish their goals time-wise, which we're happy to do. But if you're in a position that you are doing it following a proven system, man, your time's so much more effective. You lose out on all the stuff of losing time, losing money, frustration. Because I think an important point, Mike, is that getting frustrated, what usually happens to people when they get really frustrated?
They quit.
They quit and give up, and literally the cost of frustration could be all of your goals. Why? Because you didn't get help. Come on, find somebody that can help you. Be excited about that. Be excited about reducing the cost, the time, the mistakes, and it's something you're investing in yourself. And I would say if you could take that advice to start with, that would be super helpful. But get excited about this. Believe in yourself. Believe in your opportunity. And even if you get into this like with us and we figure out we have to change it a little bit or add to it, that's okay. Everything doesn't have to be perfect the first time, but what you have to do is you have to take the first step. You have to overcome the fear. And I'll end on that, Mike. I would say, when you stay in the fear zone, fear is going to cost you focus, right? And if you're not focused on the task at hand, that makes it harder. Fear is going to also put you in a position where you start to doubt yourself. Could you imagine an Olympic athlete doubting themselves before they do the pole vault or, a triple backflip or any event? No, they're very focused and thinking to themselves, I can do this, which they also have a coach, right, Mike? They have somebody that has the experience to guide and support them as well. So I would just say, think positive. Don't be insecure about it. Be excited. Get the right people behind you. And if you do those things, you're definitely going to be having a good start.
Well, that was amazing advice, Kody. Spoken from true experience. Thank you so much for being with me on the show today.
My pleasure.
So what do you think? Are you in the fear zone right now? Would it benefit you if you had a joint venture partner to guide you along the way? Leave a comment below and let us know how we can help. The American dream is closer than you think. To your success, we're out.